Hey, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Thank you all so much for continuing to view this program. We're growing and growing day by day. We're making sure that as we exit the year, this channel, Atheists for Liberty's channel, we have more guests constantly booked where we address as many topics as we possibly can from an Enlightenment Values perspective. It's not only does Atheists for Liberty, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, defends Enlightenment values, but do we seek to learn from the greatest minds of the 21st century. I always try to have planned interviews with planned guests. And originally we were trying to get Dr. Joseph Forcato on the show. Unfortunately, he's not feeling so well. So we have some impromptu guests that are coming on because we want to do something very interesting here at Atheists for Liberty. We want to cover a lot of breaking news more, especially as it pertains to religion, cultural related issues pertaining to religion, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, stuff that you normally don't see on a lot of other channels. And we've always planned our content. We've always talked about a lot of various subjects where the time of the hit piece or when the news comes out doesn't really matter, but we're trying to cover current events more. And that's exactly what this stream is going to be about. We have two great guests and supporters of the organization that are going to be coming on with me. But first off, I want to state our member of the week. So our member of the week, guys, is Richard Demio, guys. Be like Richard and become a member today at atheistsforliberty.org. All donations are tax deductible. We are matching all contributions between now and December 31st, thanks to the David Silverman donor match. And actually, too, we're selling special ornaments that are going out to our advisors, as well as plenty of influential atheists that support our organization. We're doing that as a fundraiser, too. So if you're interested in buying an Atheists for Liberty 2023 themed ornament, it's going to be $30. That's also going to go towards the match. And you can email info@atheistsforliberty.org. That's info@atheistsforliberty.org if you're interested in getting an ornament. And also, guys, if you like what you're seeing here, you like the content that we do, be sure to subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, like this video, and follow us on all other social media platforms, as we're also right now streaming on X and Facebook too. So without further ado, let's get on to showcasing our guests and talking about the content here, because with what's going on between Candace Owens and the Daily Wire, there's a bit of a religious and theological component, it's a bit of an understatement, that we should go over as an organization. I have some great guests that are going to join me in that. So I want to bring on Jake Klein, Virginia State Director for Atheists for Liberty, and the YouTuber Monolithic Ethos, who has been a supporter of our organization and is quite heavily involved in internet drama and culture war related news. So gentlemen, thank you both for joining me.
Joseph, I think you're muted.
I think, Jake, you're muted.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Honestly, I given the nature of the show and given the fact that like a lot of this planning had to now be done last minute, I just really appreciate that both of you were very much still interested in coming on and giving your perspectives, because it's going to be a very lively discussion. And there's a lot of good content that we're going to go over. I want to fit this in within a span of maybe 55 to 60 to 70 minutes. I want to be respectful to both your times here. But I think it's going to be a very good show. So let's get into this. You both know Candace Owens. She is one of the nation's most famous political commentators right now on the right. She started out a few years ago as Red Pill Black in 2017. And later on, thanks to her going on shows like The Rubin Report, she got very famous and influential to where she later on got a job with Turning Point USA. That catapulted her onto getting her own show on the Daily Wire. And she's been with the Daily Wire, I think, for the past few years now. And she's continued to grow, continued to become an influential name for herself. A lot of people like her, and there's a lot of people who don't like her for plenty of things. And she's also started the Blexit movement and quite a few other endeavors throughout the years. She's always been a controversial figure within politics. That is an understatement too. But recently, she's gotten into a lot of drama at the place she works at, or at least in relation to one of the people that she works with at the place she works at, Ben Shapiro at the Daily Wire. So I want to showcase a few different tweets here and a few different screenshots, and I would like to, get both of your perspectives on this and kind of give a brief timeline to both of you guys and the audience as we go through all of this. So let me see here. I'm going to go here and do, let's see, a picture-in-picture layout. Or a screen layout. Let's see if this works. Literally, guys, everybody, you're going to be seeing me experiment with technology here. So I'm going to go for the entire screen. And then we're going to go into this first tweet. So Candace Owens, there was a video that was released where Ben Shapiro was talking at a fundraiser about Candace Owens' views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I'm going to give a very kindergarten view of this, and we'll get into talking about this issue more later on in the stream here. Candace Owens is very much on the America First perspective, the view that America should stay out of foreign conflicts. On the most part, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but that is basically what view she has in regards to this conflict. It's very different from Ben Shapiro's view, who is very much in support of the state of Israel, and he's also an Orthodox Jew, and he very much has a very pro-Israel stance. Now, when it comes to some of the statements that she's made on her programs, on the Daily Wire, on her show, it angered Ben Shapiro and some people that also support Ben Shapiro and his work. And this video of Ben Shapiro calling out Candace Owens at this fundraiser, it went viral. And because of that, Candace Owens tweeted this out on November 14th. This is a Bible quote that then she says at the bottom, "You cannot serve both God and money. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other." Also, by the way, in this tweet, one of Candace's number one or top comments that has a lot of likes, it has even more likes than what's being shown here. This is Autumn Groiper, also known as Nick Fuentes, stating "Amen" with, at the time, it got 1,900 likes, got even way more likes since then. So she posted this Bible quote in response to Ben Shapiro, kind of made this, I would argue, marketing move as a Christian to counter what Ben Shapiro was saying. You then have Ben Shapiro then responding here, saying, "Candace, if you feel that taking away money from the Daily Wire somehow comes between you and God, by all means quit." So want to just get both of your takes so far. We're going to go through more of the Twitter drama, more of their back and forth, and also other people's takes. But what do you guys think of this so far?
I like what she has to say, actually. Will you pull it back up? I'll respond directly to it. So, I mean, call this Christian or not, and, I wrote a very critical article about Christianity that released in Reality's Last Stand last week. So, I'm no fan of Christianity, but I am a fan of peacemaking. Mm-hmm. If what she's saying in this tweet is that in order for her willing to be able to advocate for peace in Israel and Palestine, she has to choose the virtue of peacemaking over the money that she's getting from the Daily Wire. Then, I mean, I just, I don't necessarily think Candace understands the situation in that nation well, but I do agree with her on this broad point. For sure. And so if she wants to frame it in Christian language, if she wants to frame it in secular language, I don't really care that much, because, I think the moral virtue is here. In terms of, Groyper's liking it, well, yeah, I mean, they're going to like the Palestinian position, and, they're going to like, super Christian stuff. And, I think that that's terrible. But, you can come to the same position for very different reasons. And I don't necessarily trust Candace's motives at all, but I do agree with this statement completely.
Yeah, I think that definitely peace is always the best option. And definitely there's always been a healthy debate that's happened on the right between getting involved in foreign affairs and staying out of foreign affairs. So I think there's a lot of political commentators that have that kind of America first position from a foreign policy standpoint, religious or non-religious, right? And that's fine. I was in a debate recently, a little over a week ago, where I was talking about this very issue, how like we even at Atheists for Liberty have members that have different stances when it comes to foreign policy related issues. But definitely when it comes to the Bible quote and when it comes to further discussions of religion, it's going to continue and it's going to get heated even more when especially as I show more of these screenshots here and tweets. Monolith, what's your take so far?
This is somewhat unique because usually, ever since the 2000s, probably earlier, Christian evangelicals and even the Christian right tend to be very Zionist, but in a different type of way, in a sense, say pro-Zionist, in the sense that they view the returning of Jews to their homeland will bring upon the second coming of Jesus Christ, which is somewhat exploitative of the Jewish part because they don't, since Jews do not believe Jesus is king or Jesus is the Messiah, they're going to burn hell anyways.
Right.
But I noticed that Candace is which she has a history of grifting around in different positions and so on, leaning towards the America First policy. And it's somewhat of I'm starting to see a division within the right, even in the Christian right, on the regards to Israel. And this is somewhat unique. However, I want to also point out Nick Fuentes. Nick, and this is somewhat changing a little bit the subject matter of Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is not a right winger. He's, in my eyes, he's just a socialist. He defended Stalin. He criticized capitalism. So this is somewhat interesting how, she's grifting to these like collectivist groups, and this is something I brought up in a recent tweet.
It's very interesting to see how Candace and her marketing is definitely changing, and changed very much so rapidly in my view, very quickly after this drama started to ensue. And it brings up a lot of interesting questions on the future of Christianity in politics, the future of this kind of Judeo-Christian marketing. And we're going to get into more of that. But we barely scratched the surface here. Literally. So speaking about all of this, we got Candace then responding to Ben saying, "You are utterly out of line for suggesting that I cannot quote biblical scripture. The Bible is not about you." And I saw this. I don't know about you guys. I saw this and I knew instantly, okay, all right. She knows what I think Candace knows exactly what she's doing here when it comes to her marketing on the Bible. And this is something that when the religious right was very popular, they used this very well. Having the shield of Christianity, the shield of faith and religion. Well, I'm quoting the Bible, so therefore my position must be good. Whether or not you agree or disagree with her position, I think she knows from that angle in politics to do this. And literally, you have Christ is King. Not to say the Christians haven't said that quote before. Jesus is Lord has been a quote that many Christians have used. But Christ is King has definitely been a quote that's now been taken by the Groyper movement, taken by the dissident kind of Christian Catholic nationalist Zoomer movement now, has been made into a quote of their own. It's not even just a Christian thing anymore. It's now been marketed as a quote from a specific niche. So I find it to be interesting too. I just find it to be interesting that Ben Shapiro is one of the world's most popular and famous Orthodox Jews in the world, and definitely in the United States. You could argue the most famous. And you have this kind of Christ is King reply, like instantly, given to Ben after this stuff started happening. I just find it to be very, very interesting. Not to say that Candace is not a Christian. I think Candace has always been a Christian, but I think definitely there's a bit of religious politics that are happening here too. And this is why I wanted to have you guys on to talk about this more, just to see this. You got to have Candace then saying you've been acting unprofessional and emotionally unhinged for weeks now. And we have all had to sit back and allow it and have all tried to exercise exceeding understanding for your raw emotion. I will not tolerate it. And granted, guys, if all of you in the audience, if you guys want to watch more videos and content pertaining to more of the foreign policy specifics and pertaining to a lot of the other drama, business related Daily Wire drama, go ahead. But a lot of these religion related issues, they're not really being discussed too much. And I think it's because of the political correctness that exists in certain spaces where, they're not going to talk about how Christ is King is just being used as a weapon because, well, we can't criticize Christ as King. Luckily, we don't have that problem here. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that too?
Hold on for a second. Hold on for a second.
I'll go while he's working on that. So I have a lot of thoughts on this. So, Candace, whatever you want to say about her, she is absolutely, well, I guess I want to say something about her. So not whatever, but she is the absolute best grifter that I have ever seen. I want to take classes. She's amazing. I truly mean that genuinely. It's a skill. And let me explain why. And I don't like to cast aspersions. I don't call a lot of people grifters. I know that's become a popular term. With her specifically, I do apply it because she has just done it like repeatedly since the beginning, and she's amazing at it. So go back to the other tweet. Let me comment on that other one. So this one, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, she knew exactly what she was doing in the previous tweet. And what Ben is saying here is, that his values, shouldn't be in conflict with God and with her religion, and she's taking that. Or if it is out of line, then she should quit because she's not in line with the Daily Wire, right? And she's taking that to mean that he's telling her that she can't post biblical quotes, which is obviously not what's happening. No. But what she's doing here is she's making it about Christians versus Jews, which I just think is a terrible thing to do. But it's so smart because if you divide it that way, you call attention to the fact that the vast majority of the conservative movement is Christian. We are the exceptions to that. And another exception to that is the leadership of the Daily Wire, which is Jewish, right? And so if she pits Jews and Christians against each other, Christians will win because there's more of them in that group. So I just think this is so coldly calculated in a way that is like, if I were a psychopath, like, oh my God, I'd be learning so many lessons. But this is ultimately like, I'm not a psychopath. This is really wrong to do because, and again, it's this groipery sort of language. Like, this is where real anti-Semitism has come from, is this sort of stuff. I am not a fan of the state of Israel. I despise Ben Shapiro's positions on the state of Israel. I happen to agree with Candace's actually, but the way that she's messaging it here, I can see what she's doing, and I think it's wrong.
Yeah, it's a real shame. And actually, this is why I really like having you on here too, because we have a lot of differences of opinion even within Atheists for Liberty, but regardless of one's foreign policy stance, you can see the writing on the wall here with what Candace is doing, and this is what is super duper troubling because it messes up the debate. This is why, like, I tell people when I'm in, like, when I'm at CPAC and all these other spaces, take faith out of the equation and argue from rationality here. You guys would win so many other people if you take the religious bias out of the picture and actually talk about maybe why you prefer Israel, why you don't like Israel's policies, why you love Israel's policies. We'd have a more robust system that way if this were to happen. So she knows exactly what she's doing. She knows exactly what she's doing here, and I really wanted to showcase that.
Yeah,
but it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there at all. And by the way, there's more stuff with the specifics of what happened within the Daily Wire. Jeremy Boring made a statement. Candace, I don't believe, is getting fired. I also don't believe that Candace is quitting the Daily Wire. More specifics can be found if you guys go to YouTube or go to other sources and look at those specifics yourself. But we're going to go into some other stuff relating to Candace and what she's tweeted about recently, and what other people have tweeted about. But Monolith, what's your take too?
Yeah, so as I noticed about her tweet regarding Crisis King, that's a common graper thing they tend to do. Like, I know Josiah David did that, probably Nick Fuentes. And what they tend to do, like these grapers, is to say absurd stuff, right? And then they try to redeem themselves by saying Crisis King. And this is something that I think Fred told me about. Like, it's just exploit using Christianity as a blanket
Yeah.
for their own like absurd beliefs and being all edgy. Now, granted, this is not to say that her tweet regarding her stance on Israel is edgy, but this is a common Groyper theme. Which brings in the question: is she grifting to paleocons or the Groyper community?
I love that you bring that up, because for those of you who know your culture war history too, if for anybody who has seen streams from people that used to be Groypers or used to be followers of Nick and have kind of either gotten kicked out or have, not continue to be subject to the brainwashing anymore, you'll find that when it comes to how the Groypers marketed themselves, while they definitely had a lot of racial tones and racial undertones with how they were, marketing themselves, they also very much wanted to market to the Black community in a weird way too. So you could argue that some of them were racist, and Nick definitely is, there's definitely with that movement, in my opinion, some white nationalist undertones. But then what's so interesting too is that you'll have them like wearing attire that a lot of rap musicians wear, having rap in the theme. Nick has had a lot of support, a bunch of supporters, theocratic supporters from people in the Black community too. So,
Bryson Gray.
Christ is king, right? So they knew exactly what they were doing when it came to the marketing. And now you have people like Candace Owens in this situation that she's in with Ben Shapiro, almost taking advantage of that, taking advantage of how there's been this splinter now between this whole the Judeo part of the conservative movement and the Christian part of the conservative movement. There's been this marketing for so many years of Judeo-Christian this, Judeo-Christian that. Well, can we really rely on that so much, or can't conservatives really rely on that so much anymore? AFL, by the way, again, is not a conservative organization, but when it comes to this and when it comes to religion, I think it's very important that we cover this very much so. So there's a lot more stuff that's happening as well in relation to Candace. So you have Candace actually tweeting out here as well. This was a few days later. I think this was literally 2 days ago. So Taylor Swift apparently is being honored with a projection on the Christ the Redeemer statue in Brazil. And now with Candace tweeting about the Bible, tweeting about Christ as King just a few days prior, now you have her saying that this is blasphemous and now should not be allowed in any way, shape, or form. And now that the West does not take Christianity or Christians seriously, and how dare Christians allow this to happen, public displays and disrespect to the faith. It's a lot of the reverse of this kind of marketing that she originally did a few years ago. And I'm not saying that she was ever an atheist. I'm not saying that she was ever even a fan of secularism, but definitely when it comes to the Christianity, it's now an overdrive, because she knows that's what's getting her clicks right now within that dissident audience. 32,000 likes, 5K retweets, a lot of conversation being had about the topic. And it comes into question a lot of this whole marketing of, well, we're the free speech warriors here. That's what we're trying to do. Well, now you have some calls for censorship of things that are not even that woke or that bad. Like, personally speaking, I'm not the biggest fan of Taylor Swift. I have a bunch of critical views when it comes to Taylor Swift and how she markets herself and how some of her followers are. But that's innocent. That really is innocent. And the fact that you see Candace, making a tweet like that with 32,000 views, she knows what's getting her the clicks right now. She knows that she's developing a new audience in comparison to the old conservative audience that she's had over the past few years. She's getting a new and different following. So that's continuing there. You have even as well, and this is why I think it's very important that we cover this, like Lauren Shen. This is just an example on her YouTube channel. She made a video covering, of course, the Ben Candace drama. Ben Shapiro slams Candace Owens for a Bible verse, as if Ben Shapiro is being the unreasonable one here. Like, look at him. He's opening his mouth. He's looking crazy or whatever in this thumbnail. And Candace Owens with the American flag in the background. She looks super cool. Feelings over facts. As if a biblical position is now the logical position to have. This is what's happening with the marketing, guys. This is what is happening right now. This is the new trad Cath, trad Christian sect that's trying to pop up and destroy secularism and destroy Enlightenment values from the other side. And people are taking advantage of the marketing of this. I'm very glad too that other people have been pushing back against it. We have Nate Talks to You, a good friend of the show. He's been on the stream before. He responds to Candace by saying that the concept of blasphemy is incompatible with free speech. We have the right to not take your talking snake story seriously. And I agree. Wasn't Candace Owens meant to be the anti-SJW person on campuses, to have a rational discussion, to pierce through the woke nonsense? Well, now here we are doing the same thing that the woke feminists have done, that we've criticized these woke people on college campuses of doing. Oh, because it's in the name of Jesus, or oh, because it's in the name of Christianity. This is a dangerous thing, guys. This isn't just some dissonant thing happening on the blogs. This is becoming slowly more mainstream in politics. We got to have more conversations about it. What are you guys' takes on this too?
Well, I mean, it is probably blasphemous to do that. I don't care much about
I bet, within the confines of Christianity.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't care much about blasphemy. So I don't have any issue with that. Having said that, I mean, this, I guess, goes well beyond the Candace Owens Daily Wire debate, but that is very symbolically interesting. The idea of taking Christ the Redeemer and just painting it over with like a modern pop star. Nothing against Taylor Swift specifically. I know she's like the biggest thing in the world, but I don't really listen to her, so I don't know much about her. But it is kind of telling that, as a non-Christian and as somebody who has issues with Christianity, I don't necessarily think Jesus Christ is the symbol that should lord over society like that. But there is something to having like a big symbol that represents, values that are important, that we aspire to have shared within a society. And, we are kind of in an intermittent stage right now where Christianity is dying statistically. Less and less people are believing it generation after generation after generation. And it's in demographic decline. But we haven't really come up with what's going to replace it yet.
Right. And that's a continued discussion.
Yeah. And I think that's an important project because it's probably not Taylor Swift.
Please. I hope it's not Taylor Swift.
Yeah, because
that's my personal take. Like, definitely
there is
not.
some sort of like moral archetype that we should, have a shared community feeling of looking to. And this really just, I think, kind of calls to attention that we're not there yet, and we need to find the new one.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to continue to have more of those discussions. I think a lot of the people in what was the IDW, they're still having that. I think some people have gone in a really bad direction when it comes to explaining their answers to these problems. We just did a stream last week where we talked about Ayaan Hirsi Ali, for instance, and one of her recent articles. So this is very much an ongoing discussion. But the thing I despise about what Candace is saying here is, she is a Christian. She has every right to be a Christian. I will defend her right to be a Christian. We have the freedom of religion as well in this country. But Candace is also a one of the most famous commentators in politics right now, with a very wide audience. So the fact that she is crushing down on this is blasphemous in the same style and same language that woke feminists and woke social justice activists have used. Oh, but it's okay because it's religion. People need to wake up to this. People need to understand it's not all we're going to agree to disagree now. I bet you, and I don't know if Candace even knows about the existence of Atheists for Liberty as an organization or what I do. I only met her once, and she probably doesn't even remember. But if I were to go up to her, given the tweets that she's made now, talking about Atheists for Liberty, and we state these culture war 2.0 arguments of agree to disagree, we're all against the new religion of woke here. I think some people on her side will understand that and take that in good faith and work with us despite our religious disagreements to fight for free speech and and an enlightened society with freedom for all. But I don't know if Candace would now. I don't know if Candace would. I think the pendulum has been pushed now, and I tweeted about this recently, to where I think we're getting into like a third culture war now, where anti-woke is not enough now. Monolith, what are your views when it comes to all of this?
She didn't start out as being like a religious type person. She was mainly started out her political career through countering Black Lives Matter and starting the Blexit movement. It somewhat shifted once she got married with this guy. He's like a Catholic, like he's like a Catholic apologist,
right.
Which sort of shifted her political goals and mission, and it shifted more towards Christianity, which is another aspect of grifting.
And by the way, I also want to mention, I said this on the Ion stream, and I'll say it again today. I have plenty of Christian friends. We even have a minority of Christians that are members of AFL because they like our fight for free speech, our fight for secularism. They might like the events that we do, so the streams or the Discord events that we have, and the in-person events that we have throughout the country. So I very much respect Christians as people and will defend freedom of religion. But if you think about it, this kind of political grifting of Christianity, it's kind of disrespectful to Christians if you think about it. It's disrespectful to people who have always had their private faith and have always had their view. Now they're seeing people just in the name of this drama. I'm not saying that this is 100% Candace, but definitely with some other people, going in that direction. Just because, well, it's more convenient, or wokeism is a problem, or Christ is king. I don't like my other colleagues in the conservative movement or in whatever movement I'm in. That's disrespectful to religious people too, in my opinion. That's disrespectful to plenty of my religious friends. And I'm one of the most militant atheists that you guys would ever meet. And I almost view that from a perspective of pity and kindness towards my religious colleagues. It's a real shame, but we got some more tweets, and we'll go over that. And then I want to get into, some further conversation, and then the Q&A. We got some other opinions from other people in the culture wars. So Tree of Logic actually, it's actually perfect to what I was saying. Tree of Logic tweets out, just a question for the Christians out there. Do you know when you're being played, or are you so gullible that you're sincerely believing that Candace Owens is on your team? Not saying that this is my view, but this is another view too. Interesting for all the Christians that are watching this, how all of a sudden you have this marketing just seeping in all of a sudden randomly. The Groyper Wars, another great example. All this random tradcath stuff seeping in just so suddenly. You have to question the motives, in my opinion.
I'm not going to name names. I have it on the authority of, somebody that knows Candace, that, her Christianity is not a grift. And I
believe that.
I know Monolithic, also said, she's married to a trad Catholic, which, I didn't know, but makes sense. Now, having said that, she's clearly using her Christianity for a grift.
Yeah.
But this, are you so gullible that you sincerely believe that Candace Owens is on your team? I don't happen to believe that.
Yeah, and I'm showcasing a lot of other people's views here. I'm in agreement. Candace, I don't think Candace has ever been an atheist. I don't think Candace has ever been a non-Christian. Candace has always been a Christian. But it's just interesting how all of a sudden, this screenshot actually proves it. Proves a bit of my agreement with Tree of Logic, not with everything, but throughout the entire existence of Candace Owens, she has never uttered the words "Christ is King" until November the 14th. And that's the issue here. It's not that she's a Christian. Everybody, you have a right to be a Christian in this country. We have plenty of Christian friends in the anti-woke fight, for instance. It's that it's all of a sudden becoming the most important thing. All of a sudden now, because she disagrees with her Orthodox Jewish colleague over a bunch of issues that one could have one stance or the other on. And that's the part that really grinds my gears. There is some other commentary as well being made here. So pertaining to this idea that she might be a grifter. You have Abby Libby. I think she's a Christian as well. She tweets out, Candace Owens began publicly performing Christianity when it became financially advantageous for her to do so. Conservatives stop falling for the disingenuous influencers who just tell you what you want to hear in exchange for your money. Again, I think she was always a Christian. But I think very much, and by the way, I'm not going to showcase any of these videos or extra clips. Again, all of you can go ahead and do your own research and come up with your own opinions. It's just so interesting that all of a sudden now Jesus is the main importance. All of a sudden now Christ is king is the main prerogative. Now, why wasn't it the main prerogative when Candace first started getting involved in politics in 2017 or 2018? I further continue my view on the conversation. I'll showcase 2 other tweets and then we'll get into further discussion. I tweet out that more right-wing commentators are now saying the same chants on X that we saw the Gen Z theocrats say in 2019, i.e. Christ is king. Notice how weaponizing Christianity can now get colleague to turn against colleague, where anti-woke is not enough now. Culture War 3.0 is coming soon. The atheists were right. So I don't care how weird I come off with on Twitter, but I'm seeing more and more of these patterns. And I think it's something that's very dangerous that we need to continue to pay attention to. I value atheists, Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, whoever, who are authentic. I value authenticity. I value the idea of agreeing to disagree. That's what made this whole anti-woke movement so big. But I think that agree to disagree portion of that's coming to an end. That's why I think Culture War 3.0 is coming in, because now you'll have people say, all right, well, these people disagree with me on this, this, and this. I'm no longer going to do agree to disagree. I'm going to go ahead and push my beliefs onto everybody else, just like the woke people. And even other people that are still very much relevant in some of these movements, like James Lindsay, who's on our advisory board. He ended up just recently tweeting today, Christian nationalists are identical to radical feminists, and he's gotten a lot of hate. I've gotten some hate as well on my Twitter recently when I'm responding to Gad Sad, another advisor of ours. You're starting to see the division just bubble up more. It's no longer Culture War 2.0. We're all in agree to disagree mode. It's very different. Splits are happening, and not just splits between just being anti-woke. You have Ian Hayworth. He, I believe, is Jewish. And he has been on a college tour. He was on a college tour last year. He hosts a bunch of things and has done commentary. He says, and I disagree with him on this, the United States of America is built on Judeo-Christian principles. That means something. Jews and Christians should be unshakable allies in defense of this amazing country. Beware the grifting monsters trying to tear them apart. I think the argument that I would make, and I don't know if you guys want to make this same argument or maybe have a difference of opinion, I think this ends up also showing that religiously speaking, and especially when it comes to politics and public policy, there's a big difference between the Judeo and the Christian. And then not only that, proves my point even more, not every Christian is going to agree on every single issue. So why should a movement like conservatism or libertarianism or the liberty movement or whatever base their core values on religion? I think this disagreement, not just on the foreign policy, but with the religious disagreements, I think this ends up proving the point that we at Atheists for Liberty make when we go to places like CPAC, that you should base your policy positions on reason and not religion, because on the left, when it comes to Black Lives Matter, for instance, you'll have plenty of Christians defending the woke Black Lives Matter position, saying that God justified their positions for it. And I want more people who claim to be reasonable in the culture wars to wake up to that reality. And I think this just showcases those differences very, very well. I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing here. But yeah, I think it does. And I think it's a conversation that we need to have even further. I want to let you guys continue to give your commentary if you want, and then we'll get on to the last segment, and then we'll do a Q&A.
Yeah, I want to bring up the fact that Judeo-Christian, the word Judeo-Christian is modern. It was a word coined by FDR to try to, align himself with the Jews to try to differentiate themselves from fascist Germany and the Axis powers over there. and even then, like historically wise, Jews tend to align themselves with the Muslims because at the time that they were the safest countries for the Jewish people, and it's just using. And by the way, there's a good video talking about like debunking the narrative of Judeo-Christian values. Is that a lot of these quote unquote Judeo-Christian values had a lot of impact from paganism. Like you got the Enlightenment thinkers and with the Enlightenment, and and prior to that, the Renaissance came to be because of rediscovering ancient Greek philosophy and ancient like political knowledge and philosophical aspects that were thought to be lost, that were revived. And a lot of in our country was founded on the image of like Plato, and not only that, the Roman Empire and the Republican system that we have.
Greco-Roman.
Yeah.
Jake, I don't know if you have any further commentary on this yourself.
I basically agree with everything that you just said there. I didn't know that bit about FDR coming up with the term Judeo-Christian. That's very interesting to me. I do think, as far as world philosophies go, Judaism and Christianity have a lot in common. I think Judaism and Islam probably have more in common than either has with Christianity. But, you can say, when you say the United States is founded on Judeo-Christian ideas, I mean, if you want to say like really basic stuff, like the idea that, all people are of equal moral value, that's something that exists there. You could say that, came into the United States that way, but it's also existed in various other philosophies around the world. If you want to make the case that, Christianity and Judaism, really influenced the founding of this country, you can certainly do it. I mean, the founders have written about that, but you can also do the same in terms of, the Roman Empire and, the ideas of Aristotle, and the Enlightenment coming out of that more than, it came out of the Christianity that immediately preceded it in European culture. It is the case, like was just said, that historically Jews have been safer in Muslim countries than they were in Christian Europe. This is why, at the beginning of the Zionist movement, they wanted to go to a territory that was then part of the Ottoman Empire, Ottoman Palestine, instead of Christian Europe, where they were primarily at the time, in countries like Russia, where they were being pogromed and beaten and massacred and raped and, all sorts of horrible things. So it has been interesting to see how that's changed over time. I think insofar as Jews and Christians are generally living in more harmony at this point in history, I think that's a wonderful thing. But I certainly don't want to see this country governed in a way that is theocratic or that gives special benefits to either of those religions, based on, the idea some people have about it having inspired the founding.
Yeah. So actually, that's a great way to segue to the next question. And Jake, we spoke about this on the phone prior to us all coming on here. I want to talk a little bit more. So we talked about Candace. We talked about her religious background and how she's using religion to weaponize the conversation. I think not a lot of people are also going to talk about Ben Shapiro's faith, Ben Shapiro's religion, and his background. And I'll even say this too. I would love Atheists for Liberty to talk more about Judaism, to talk more about Jewish theocracy as well, how much of a problem that is. I live in New York State. If you go into parts of downstate New York, definitely there are a lot of church-state related issues pertaining to Orthodox Christianity. So when it comes to this debate, maybe what you know about the debate, what you don't know about the debate, what you're seeing so far between Candace and Ben, And when it comes to the broader debate, how much do you think Ben Shapiro's Orthodox Jewish faith plays into this discussion?
I think it's enormous. You know, the core thing about Judaism is that it, regardless of whether you believe or don't believe, it asks you to understand that if your mother was a Jew, you're supposed to be a Jew, and it is from a tribal time in a tribal society. Judaism likely historically was a religion that was created to bind together the inhabitants of, then Judea into, a cohesive tribe. To take 12 tribes in the Bible, the 12 tribes of Israel, and make them one tribe. And so, when you have somebody who has like this fervent belief that Jews are all one group, which was not so widely believed actually 100 years ago, or more than 100, maybe like 150 years ago. It was by actually religious Jews, but not all Jews are religious, right?
Right.
And so, all over the world, you had different Jewish communities that spoke different languages, Yiddish, Ladino, a number of other ones, and that didn't kind of all view themselves as one community. But Orthodox Jews, religious Jews, you don't have to be Orthodox to be religious, but they're the most religious. They always saw this as one unified group because of religion. And, Zionists had that same idea of, we're going to reunite all of these Jews from all around the world and, do that ethnogenesis again, that same process from the Bible of reuniting all these separate tribes into one tribe by settling Palestine. And so now you still see those things as very linked. Like there are some, ultra Orthodox groups who believe that, there was not supposed to be a Jewish state in Palestine again until the Messiah has arrived. So you see some very fringy groups. There's a group called the Neturei Karta, which is an ultra Orthodox group, which actively opposes the state of Israel. They went to Iran to, speak at a conference a number of years ago. They waved Palestinian flags and, counter protest, Jewish Zionist protests, but they're tiny in number. The vast majority, of Orthodox Jews, this sort of project is very much of their mission to see all Jews as inherently an ethnic group that are all tied together in this way. Conceiving of Jews as an ethnic group is a religious project, and that shouldn't be forgotten. Because, people have this idea that, there's just some ethnic Judaism that's, totally separate from religion. And it's not. Ethnic Judaism exists for two reasons. One, because the Bible says it's an ethnicity, and so religiously they enforce group cohesion. And then number two, because anti-Semites bought onto that same thing. And
Right.
so you have this weird, there's an economic idea called bootleggers and Baptists. Okay. So bootleggers want to keep alcohol illegal so that they can sell illegal alcohol. Baptists also want to keep alcohol illegal for different reasons, but they work together in synergy. Okay.
Mhm.
And they both kind of find themselves working towards the same goal. And I think that's very much been the situation, over the last 150 years between religious Jews and anti-Semites is, they are trying to keep Jews as one cohesive group who cannot move past this identity, who cannot integrate into other societies because they both don't want that, although it's
Right.
for very different reasons.
Yeah. I think we definitely need to have more conversations about Judaism, definitely about these divisions. I think it's only going to increase. I also know that this is another debate that we could have in of itself. We did a recent debate actually in the Atheists for Liberty Discord server. What should atheists call themselves? But often there's actually an underlooked debate that some people have that have a so-called Jewish background. Some people say, okay, I'm a if they claim to be Jewish or have that background, they'll say they're secular Jews or atheist Jews, and then you'll have some people say, no, you're not Jewish, you're an atheist. And maybe we could get into having that debate sometime in our Discord server too. David Silverman, our advisory board chair, when he was president of American Atheists, he actually gave a presentation. It's on YouTube, I think, with Free Thought Arizona. If you guys search up David Silverman Jewish or David Silverman Judaism, he gave a talk where he actually tried to separate the two. But very much, I still stand up against anti-Semitism. I don't like any kind of bigotry or hatred of any kind. But definitely, when it comes to the differences in terminology, I think that's a debate that really hasn't been fully solved yet. I don't know if Dave still has the same view he has, but definitely, I think it would make for a very good discussion as well. Monolith, I'd love to have you involved in some of these discussions too. Monolith, if you have anything to say, certainly say it. If not, we'll go to the Q&A and then we'll wrap up the show soon.
This is going to be very quick. It's referring to, like, what was that tweet regarding? What was it? Lauren Shan, I believe, talking about Candace Owens Ben Shapiro with a Bible.
Yeah, that YouTube. The thumbnail and title for her YouTube video about it.
Yeah, but how is owning someone by using a Bible verse to convince another guy who's not even a Christian?
Right. And if we're talking about facts over feelings or things like that, right? Yeah. That's kind of an oxymoron here. If we really get into it, because a lot of why did Ben Shapiro blow up? Why did all these anti-woke people blow up? Both the religious and non-religious ones. A lot of the anti-feelings culture that even came from New Atheism, it kind of got integrated into that. That's why, one of Ben Shapiro's first guests on his Sunday special was Sam Harris, of all people. So very much there was this kind of move, even in conservatism for a while, to kind of have secular explanations for their policy positions. This is what I try to tell conservatives all the time. This is what I try to tell liberals and libertarians all the time too, just everybody in politics. And it's like now certain sectors of politics they're doing a 180 of that. And I think that's very, very dangerous. This is why I am so sick of hearing we're in a new culture war and nobody's complaining about atheism anymore. And now we got to just talk about the woke. We certainly got to talk about the woke. But there's a new conversation that's being had, a new fight, a new war that's breaking out. And we got to be on the front lines of that conflict too, where faith is now being seen as the end all be all again. And it's a very dangerous thing to see, in my opinion. So, gentlemen, let's get into Q&A for a little bit. We'll answer some questions and comment on some other comments that people are making here, and then we'll end the show. So let's see. Let's get started on just bringing a few of them up. We got Big Chimp saying, isn't the origin of Christ as King mostly down to Fuentes' obsession with Kanye West? I'm fairly certain of that. Yeah. But if it's Fuentes who then took that Kanye quote and made it big in his sectors of politics.
Let's not forget that Candace is independently friends with Kanye West.
That's another thing.
She platformed him. She helped him become a political figure. Kanye wasn't really political, with the exception of the George Bush statement during Hurricane Katrina. All of a sudden, she platformed him and brought it into the conservative sphere of politics online.
And then not only that, who then became Kanye's either campaign manager or big campaign staffer, part of the campaign nationwide when Kanye was running for president? Nick Fuentes and Milo Yiannopoulos. They had little backs and forths, but one time it'd be Milo in charge of the campaign, then Nick in charge of the campaign. And then look at how close. I'm not saying Candace and Nick are working together. There's no evidence to show that yet at all. I'm not saying that. But look in some of the comments of Candace's tweets, especially condemning the blasphemy and the Christ is King stuff against Ben Shapiro. They're all, a good chunk of them are Groyper accounts. Some of the comments have 1,000 to 2,000 likes each. So I'm not saying that it's confirmed Candace and Nick are talking, but come on. there's got to be some kind of link there, at least when it comes to maybe some of Candace's supporters and some of Nick's supporters. And I think that's another thing that we're going to be seeing soon. You're going to start, unfortunately, seeing some Gen Z theocrats now getting some mainstream recognition. And this is why people got to stop thinking through a just anti-woke only lens. Let's be anti-woke. There are other dogmas that we need to fight as free thinkers, but we also need to again be transparent in fighting all dogmas, including the ones that we thought we finished off with 10, 15 years ago. So let's see. We got Lucan saying Groypers are socialist softies. I've never heard socialist softy as an argument there. But that's kind of funny. Maybe that'll stick. Who knows?
Yeah, Nick Fuentes defended Stalin, and he criticized Venezuela on why it failed, not because of socialism, but because they're just brown. They have low IQ.
Yeah, they don't care about like fiscal conservatism. And granted, AFL, we don't take a stance on fiscal issues. We're not right wing. We're not left wing. We're an atheist organization. Yeah. But isn't it interesting how you have the liberty movement and the conservative movement being very much attached for many decades to fiscal conservatism and free markets? You know, Jake, you would know this. You've been in plenty of these spaces. You've been to a lot of these conferences, some even with me. You know, it's interesting now how you have some of these people having a complete disregard for all the fiscal issues now, and they're willing to praise all the very people that the right is criticizing.
It's interesting. I mean, the right has never been a unified front, and neither is the left, for that matter. There's various subfactions in the left, but I think we are seeing. I mean, because both are kind of getting more powerful on the right, where you do see this sort of Christian nationalist theocratic attitudes that is gaining power, and I think that's terrible. On the other hand, you see Javier Milei winning in Argentina, and you see Americans just celebrating that massively, and you can't have a more free market libertarian person than Javier Milei. I'm absolutely thrilled about that. So you're kind of seeing both rise, and I feel like what you're seeing is that establishment. Like, I don't think necessarily one is pulling from the other in any way. Instead, what you're seeing is that like establishment conservative, neoconservative, squishy middle completely, since Trump came up, just fall out the floor. And then the pieces are being kind of picked up by both sides.
Yeah. We got some more comments saying authentic religions, LOL. The shadows are full of dissymmetry, delusion through the inept of disbelief, a focus of lighting, informing assets pulls one out of it. FYI, I have Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry, so this is a good point to remind people of, as many people do not know this stuff. Yeah, if people, guys, if you want to still, if you want to see Atheists for Liberty also talk about, Jewish theocracy issues when it comes to Orthodox Judaism, leave comments below. If you guys have more suggestions as to what you want to see us posting and what you want to see us talking about, guests that you want to have on, leave comments below. We're going to be doing videos very soon reviewing your comments. We're coming out with more content online than just these streams as well. So yeah, I think, Jake, I'm very glad that you talked to me about bringing up this topic, because I think it's going to be the beginning of a lot more content to come when it comes to it.
No, thank you. I mean, Israel is an ethno-state, objectively and in my view, but it's not a theocracy yet. But if you look at the demographics there, it is trending that way. And in a couple decades, it will be that. So, that is a rising concern. And I know that community well. And be they in Brooklyn or Muncie, New York, or be they in Israel, that is a very concerning thing.
Well, I would love to do more to learn about maybe Israeli secularism and maybe some of the groups that are on the ground in Israel that are kind of having to fight a two-front war as well. They are against Hamas and everything that they are doing to try to destroy the state of Israel by any means necessary. And that's where I'm personally speaking, I'm fully on board when it comes to supporting Israel in that regard. But also, not to say that Israel as a state is also without fault. just like I am against any theocracy that could make its way to America, I would very much sympathize with any Israeli colleagues of mine on the other side of the world in having to fight back against that same stuff, whether it be Islamism or Orthodox Judaism or whatever. So we're going to end the show here, guys. Want to make some quick announcements here for all of you watching. If you have a Facebook account, guys, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/atheistliberty. You have an X account, be sure to follow us on Twitter, also X at Atheist Liberty. We're going to be doing Twitter Spaces more. I'm taking a learning lesson from my friend Monolith here, and I'm starting to realize that Twitter Spaces are kind of successful. And maybe we should have more casual chats, more informal chats in comparison to this streaming series in Twitter Spaces for our supporters. And we also do events on Discord too for our members at Atheists for Liberty. Be sure to also follow us on Instagram and like and subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on notification bells, guys. So you like, guys, what you're seeing here on the channel? Do you like what we're doing at Atheists for Liberty, defending Enlightenment values, showcasing and platforming great minds, having a good back and forth discussion? Then again, become a member of Atheists for Liberty at atheistsforliberty.org today. I know the marketing might sound tedious, but we're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we want to do great things to keep this country great, to fight for Enlightenment values, for free speech, free thinking, and freedom for all. That requires your time as volunteers. That requires your financial support. We have a donation match thanks to David Silverman, the David Silverman donor match, where he donated $10,000 to Atheists for Liberty that will be matched between now and December 31st. And if you want to buy a special holiday-themed Atheists for Liberty ornament for your tree, email info@atheistsforliberty.org to request one. You can go ahead and then donate $30 to the organization, and we will mail that ornament to your address. Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for coming on the show. This was an excellent back and forth. I know that this was very last minute, but I like that this channel is also turning into kind of a newsy channel where when we need people to comment on relevant issues and current topics, we have people that we can call upon. So I want everybody here, guys, follow at Joseph J. Klein. He produces a lot of great content. He's coming up with a lot of new initiatives that all of you need to support. Everybody go follow Joseph J. Klein and follow the content and pages that he's supporting. He's writing a lot of great stuff, and he is one of the leading figures in our movement and in the Atheists for Liberty community fighting back against theocracy. And he's also, again, our Virginia state director. So if you guys are living in the D.C., Maryland, or Virginia area and you want to get more involved and be involved in a good Enlightenment-centric atheist community, contact Joseph J. Klein. And do the same for Monolithic Ethos. So he has a YouTube channel, Monolithic Ethos, and also is known on X at Monolithic Ethos. He hosts these amazing X spaces where lots of different people on the left, on the right, come in and engage in really long length, but really fun discussions. I've been a speaker in a few of them, and a lot of famous people in the culture wars have been coming in as well. YouTubers, commentators, people that are maybe running for office in the future, coming in and joining him in these discussions. And Monolith, you've always been a big fan and supporter of Atheists for Liberty too. So gentlemen, I want to thank you all so much for coming on the show. Everybody tune in next week at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific for our next episode of the stream. Looking forward to having you all tune in there. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Thomas.